First of all is we're going to use some cleansing solution just to remove any excess makeup from our lady's brows. We need to make sure that the whole of the area to be treated is totally clear of makeup. Wonderful. Any rubbish that you have, remembering to pop it onto the middle shelf of your trolley. Wonderful. Next, we're going to measure the brows just to see where we want to remove the hair from. Okay, so I'm going to use an orange wood stick to do this. A lot of your clients that come back in, you will already have done their brows before. You'll know what shape that they're going to have as soon as it's been over one visit. Okay, but to begin with, if they want a total restyle, you need to make sure that you measure the brows to make sure you're not taking too much away. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our orange wood stick from where the indentation on the nose is, which is hard to see with the mask on, but just try for a guesstimate, straight up from the corner of the eye, and that's where the start of the brow will be. Then from the corner of the nose to the outer side of the pupil, that is where we're going to have the height of the brow, and then from the corner of the nose to the outside of the eye, and that is where the brow is going to end. So that's how we'll know where we're beginning. We'll have the main height of the arch and the lower. It's really important that we question our client to see how thick she wants her brows. Does she want you to leave the bulk of that brow there? How neat does she want them? Because it is in fashion at the moment to have height on the brow and to have a little bit more of a fluffy brow. Okay, so Tyra, how neat do you want them and how thick? Do you like to keep the thickness?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, fabulous. So after you've used your orange wood stick, make sure that you get rid of that. Then we're going to comb up the hairs on the brows, because the first area that we're going to treat is the underneath of the brow. You'll see on your troubleshooting guide that I've given you, we're going to separate the brow into 3 areas. So the first area is the tail of the brow to the outer of the temples. The second is from the bulb of the brow, and that's your main bulk of your brow. And then the third area is going to be where your bulb is to the mid of the brow. Okay, so if we separate it into 3 areas, we're not going to treat the whole area at the top of the brow all at once. We're going to do a small area, then we're going to move on and do a small area, and move on and do a small area. That helps to localise where the sensation is for the client as well, so it's easy for you to keep cooling and soothing. Okay, so because I'm right-handed, I'm always going to work above the bed when I'm doing my client's right brow, and to do the left brow I simply stand to the side of the bed and I'm going to tilt my client this way. That way I'm not going all around the bed, and for you guys, you're not going all around your treatment chair. Okay, you're just working from your 2 areas, here and here. Okay, so here I have my loop. I'm going to close my hand over my knot to make sure that that's never in the treatment area, and then I'm going to do 6 twists, and there I have my twists that are going to catch the hair. So remembering, it's as I'm right-handed, it's the left hand triangle that's going to catch the hairs in the loop. So to remove my hairs, I'm laying the loop on my client's brow, and I can see in my triangle there the hairs that I'm going to catch. So in my first area there, I'm going to start removing some hairs, and then a cold compress to cool and soothe. Going back to that area, always working on the tail of the brow. I can manipulate the hairs to catch the ones that I want and cool and soothe. I can remove all of the tiny little vellus hairs near the temples. And cool and soothe. Then I'm going to go to my next area if I want to remove specific hairs, I can lay my thread, I can lay my thread on my client's skin. I can thread through to catch the hairs within the triangle, and then I know exactly which hairs I'm aiming for. That's how you can be really precise with the threading. Keep cooling and soothing to make that treatment comfortable for the client. Doing okay there, Tyra?
Yeah.
Fabulous. And cool and soothe again. We're wanting to keep the bulk of that brow there, so I'm making sure that I'm only removing any regrowth that Tyra has. I'm not eating into the body of that brow. It's better to leave more hairs there, and then at the end of the treatment ask your client if they're thin enough, than it is to remove too many hairs and have ruined the shape of her brows. So again, I'm going to manipulate those hairs till I get the ones that I want within the treatment area and remove them. To begin with, when you start to thread people's brows, if you're really scared to go near the main body of the brow, go as close as you can in the treatment area. Leave the hairs that are directly next to the brow, and you can always tweeze those out. And with each treatment that you do, then you can get closer and closer to the brows as you get more confident in removing the hairs. And we're cooling and soothing. Comb the brows down into the shape that you want, and then if there's any hairs you need to remove, you can go back in. Okay, fabulous. Then what you can do, you can grab your tweezers, so making sure that these have already been sanitized and they've been in the sterilizer. You're going to stretch your client's skin, and any hairs that are close to the brow that you want to remove, you can then just tweeze out and cool and soothe. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so next we're going to do above the brow. So then I'm going to comb the brows down to make sure that they're not in my treatment area. Okay, Tyra, if you could just hold again for me, please, my love. And this hand just right up into your hairline and a nice big stretch. Okay, so starting off again in zone 1, I'm going to remove the soft vellus hairs that are above the brow to begin with. And then I'm going to go closer to the main body of the brow, concentrating on the left triangle, ensuring that only the hairs I want to remove are in that area, and cool and soothe. Then into the second zone, getting closer to the main body of the brow. And cool and soothe again. And cool and soothe. Okay, once you're happy that you've removed all of the hairs you need to, pluck out any excess hairs that are close to the brow. Cool and soothe. Then to finish off that brow, what we're then going to do is we're going to comb up the brow and just gently trim any hairs that lay over the main body of that brow, just to make them a bit neater. And comb them down, and then into the main shape of the body of the brow. I'm just going to go back in and just move a couple more hairs. Tyra, if you want to just do those for me, thank you. Wonderful. If you just let go for me now. And then to finish off, I'm just going to remove a few hairs just from the temples. Just to give me a really nice clean finish. And if you need to remove any a bit higher up on the forehead or into the hairline, just to finish off and cool and soothe. And then that's that side done. Okay, so let's pretend now that I've been threading quite a bit today and my thumb's getting sore. So we can use either a thimble or some finger wrap. Cut the finger wrap. I'm going to wrap it around my thumb, and that's just going to help protect the skin while I continue to thread. If you start to cut your thumbs or fingers too much during threading, you know that you've got too much tension with your loop. Okay, so if I'm using it and I'm really pulling it apart and it's digging in my thumb, that's when it's going to make it sore. So just try to loosen the tension a little bit, but still enough that you can hear the loop moving. Okay, so we're combing up again, leaning my lady right over to me. I also have my cold compress there. First of all, I'm going to go into the first zone and remove my hairs there. Can you just go a little bit tighter on your eyelid for me, please, Tyra? And just a little bit more on your eyelid there. Perfect, thank you. And we're removing those hairs within that first zone. And cooling and soothing. Then you go into zone number 2, into the body of the brow, and again thread your loop through, so you're only removing those hairs that you want to. A little bit tighter on the top for me, Tara, if you can. Just if you move your fingers there, wonderful. Constantly cooling and soothing, just to make that treatment a little bit more comfortable for your client. Then we're going into the zone number 3 at the very end, where the bulb of the brow is. And cool and soothe. I'm going to comb down those hairs now to to take them out of the treatment zone. And I'm going to do above the brow. Just going to get my other loop. And again in zone 1, making sure the hairs in the main body of the brow are well out of the treatment area. And cool and soothe. Getting as close to that brow as you possibly can, but not eating into the body of the brow so that you're not ruining your shape. And cool and soothe. We're going to comb the brows through. If there's any hairs that are really close to the body of the brow that we're unsure about getting too close with the thread with, stretch that skin and just remove the excess. Then we're going to comb them up, and again, if we need to trim any of the hairs, taking a tiny bit off. You don't want to cut the hairs too short, because then when you comb the hairs back into the main body of the brow, they help to form the density of the brow. Comb them down and trim any that are too long. Keeping that skin really nice and tight. Okay, Tyra, if you just let go for me now, please, my love. And just lean right over here for me. I'm just going to tidy up the temples at the very side of the head, just to make those lines nice and clean. And cool and soothe. And then looking here on the hairline, we're just going to remove a few hairs there too, to give us a nice clean definition of the brow. Last area that we're going to do, we're going to look in the very centre of the brows now, and if we need to remove any from the centre, we're going to move our loop just to get any remaining hairs. Wonderful. Okay, so comb the hairs up, then just smooth them down so that they're in the main body of the brow. And then cool and soothe. So when you're happy that you're finished, grab a clean cold tool compress give the brows and the forehead a good rub down just to make sure that you've removed any of the excess hairs that you've pulled out. And you're done.